I have been missing in action for the last couple of days, and that's because I've been unwell. But I'm recovering from my flu, and I have the energy to record a vlog, even though it is from home. So, yes, let's get started. Today, I wanted to talk to you about why it is important to cultivate a habit of reading and how you can get started. Let's go. I think in 2024, reading a book for information doesn't necessarily make sense because we have abundant information online, so that you don't need to purchase a book to find out exactly what you need. But there is definitely like proven benefits of reading a book. Reading a book definitely helps with cognitive stimulation. It helps with improved focus and concentration. It also improves your vocabulary, obviously, because you learn new things, and you get better sleep as well, right? And a lot of people read books before sleeping, and there is a reason for that. Not just that, reading also helps you focus your attention and improves your imagination, because it's one dimensional, right? So when you read something, it forces your brain to actually put yourself in a world and imagine what is happening, right? It forces yourself to give faces to characters. It forces yourself to um, give an atmosphere for the scenes that you read about, right? So it definitely is one of the most stimulating activities, and it's definitely beneficial. If you are planning to cultivate a habit of reading books for pleasure, or generally to get information, or to be imaginative, I think there are three things that you need to take care of. First thing is knowing what book to start with, right? I believe a lot of people give up on reading because they are forced to read books that they did not enjoy or wasn't their taste, right? Like just like music, books have genres and artists, right? Authors. um, you might prefer EDM over heavy metal, or you might prefer a certain kind of heavy metal artist over other heavy metal artists, right? It's the same with books. You might prefer certain genres of books, and even there you might find certain authors a lot more approachable, readable than other authors, right? So it is always important to get started with the right book. So to find the right book, first we need to narrow down on the genre. Genres of books can be broadly categorized into two subcategories. One is your fiction, and the other is non-fiction. Fiction includes your romances and your sci-fis and murder mysteries. Non-fiction includes business, philosophy, biographies, etc. It depends on what you expect to be the byproduct of your reading habit. If you really want to improve your vocabulary, or you want to be more imaginative, definitely fiction helps. It helps you visualize things better. At the same time, if you are looking to learn something very specific about an individual, or learn some business principles, I think non-fiction is the right section. In these, there are definitely subgenres. You can just read about them. Second thing that you need to do if you want to get into the habit of reading regularly, if not every day, is to carry a book around with you. First off, buy a physical book if possible. If not, then you can buy ebooks. You can download the Kindle app. You can buy almost every book on Kindle. The Kindle app is absolutely amazing. You can actually do a lot more with the app. You can make notes, you can highlight, and you even get a free dictionary with it. You don't have to close the app and open Google to learn something or find the meaning of a certain word, right? So definitely, number two, you need to definitely get yourself into the habit of carrying a book wherever you go, preferably a physical book, because that experience is much better. Third thing important is having goals for your reading. Like any habit, you need to have a measurable activity for every day. So first thing I would recommend is to set yourself chapter goals. You can tell yourself, okay, I will read one chapter a day, or I will read 3 chapters a day, depending on how big the book is or how big the chapters are. You can choose how much you want to do. If this is your first book that you're reading, to get started with the habit of reading, and you're reading 1 chapter or 2 chapters every day, and by the 5th day, 6th day, if you do not feel the excitement to read the book every day, then I think probably that book is not the best book to start with. Nothing wrong with the book or the author, it's just that maybe it wasn't the right topic for you, right? So I would say definitely switch it around, find a different book, but that is only for your first book, right? I know a lot of books start off slow, and towards the end of the book, the topics get really heavy, or there is a plot twist or something of that sort. It's just that because it's your first book, ideally, if you're trying to get into a habit, it should be exciting to read it every day. So just if 3-4 days down the line, if the book doesn't feel inviting for you to open it every day and read a chapter or two, then probably change the book. But that's just for the first few books that you want to get started with, right? And I thought I'll share my story of how I got into reading. For me, growing up, I've always wanted to read fantasy books and story books and detective stories and stuff like that, but I never got into it. I always got bored with the first few chapters, and then I never finished any book that I read. And through my undergrad, I never read a single book outside of engineering textbooks. After graduation, I was suddenly surrounded by so many businesses, business ideas, and the term entrepreneurship. And then it got me really curious, and I started looking for information on what good entrepreneurship is, how to start a business, or what it means to be an entrepreneur. And suddenly one thing just kept popping up, which was all good entrepreneurs read a lot. And then suddenly I wanted to read because I wanted to be a good entrepreneur. And that's how it started. The first book I read was Good to Great by Jim Collins, and I think it is one of the best books, business books written. A lot of people will agree to it. That book, I couldn't put it down. The first 2 days, I finished 70% of the book, and then what led, and then I just found out all the books written by Jim Collins, and then I started reading them one after the other. And in each of his books, he quotes a lot of other authors, and then I just made notes of other authors available, and then I just found a bunch of business books, and before you knew it, I had like a small bookshelf full of business books, and I've been like chewing through books left, right, and center. And eventually, business books can say the same things over and over again in different ways. So I've realized that very quick. I started reading a lot more philosophical books, books that aren't really business books at their core, but a lot of learnings can be taken from them about businesses, right? So I started getting into those kind of books, and today most of my books are most of the books that I read are non-fiction. But I do read a couple of fiction books. I do have some preferences, but I don't necessarily have the best recommendation. So that brings me on to the fourth section of this vlog, which is my recommendations for reading. So I've made a list. I will link all the books and their Amazon links in the description. You can just click and buy it if you want. So first genre, I'm recommending it by genre. So the first would be, if you are into mystery or thriller, I would recommend Gone Girl and The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. I think there are movies about these books as well. For some reason, if you haven't seen the movies, definitely read the book first and then watch the movie. It's absolutely good. I've read both of those books and they are amazing. Second genre, if you are into science fiction, just Dune is an amazing book. There is a movie as well. Especially if you haven't seen the movie, it definitely challenges your imagination. Third genre, fantasy, I would recommend The Hobbit, or the Harry Potter series, or the Game of Thrones series. They are definitely good places to start. Romance, this is a book that I've read. This is one of the very few books I've read only because I was a fan of the author. It's The Fault in Our Stars by John Green. Again, there is a movie with the same title, The Fault in Our Stars, but I think the book is very cleverly written, well written. Yes, and biographies, I would recommend Steve Jobs by Walter Isaacson. That's always a great start. Business, again, Good to Great is something that I would recommend. I also will recommend The Originals. That's an amazing book. Anyone who's wanting to be an entrepreneur should definitely, not just an entrepreneur, to be an artist of any sort, read that book. And I'd also recommend Steal Like an Artist. That's if a single book that has left such a big impression on my life, it's this book. Definitely go ahead. If you're into reading about science, not science fiction but actual science, Sapiens, the best book that I've ever read about science, non-fiction. That it just I couldn't put the book down because it was written like a thriller, but it is about our it's about human beings, right? So it was amazing. And lastly, self-help and motivation, I would recommend The Psychology of Money. That's absolute must read for anyone, everyone. And Atomic Habits, obviously, it's one of the best sellers in the last few years, and for good reason. The book has amazing tips, self-help tips, to cultivate any sort of habit. So get started there as well. So that's it for today. Thank you for putting up with my voice and like my sick face. Hopefully by tomorrow I will be even better, and I'll get back to the usual format of the vlog with some sunlight and a fresh new topic for tomorrow. All right. Thank you for joining. Subscribe and use the links in the description below to make your purchases of the books that I've recommended. It will definitely help me. All right, subscribe. See you soon. See you tomorrow.